Welcome to the Three Beards Podcast. My name is Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
I'm afraid that is right.
Then live to send the innocent to their death? Is this justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
Hey, welcome back. Did we have a conversation earlier? With Wallace Wagner. That was amazing. Now we got. Man, we're keeping with the alien theme here. We have with us back because we just did not do him justice the first show. We had to bring him back for a follow up on this. Mr. Jared Murphy, author of an amazing book. It's not aliens, worse, it's us. Discovering our lost history. You can go to notaliens.com and he's got a link immediately at the top. As soon as you go to the page, you're going to see where it says order now. Click that link. You can buy it right there, or you can go to amazon.com, pick that out. You can also listen to him with his co-host on Conflict Radio at conflictradio.net, where they're in fast competition. I think if we're not careful, they're going to pass us in episodes because they're fast approaching because they just had Wallace Wagner on their program I think it was a week and a half ago.
Yeah, I also had him on my channel, notaliens.com. We have a member area, so I do private interviews where we dig a little deeper for stuff that would get us banned on other social media. So I had him on my site too, and Wallace and I have had a chance to, just because of his research and mine, we've been able to connect a few times. But nice to see you guys.
Yeah, welcome back, sir.
Yeah, I don't know where we're at with conflict, by the way. I don't know where members or episodes. I know Michael likes to keep track of that, like, we beat out this one or that one or whatever. And it's like,
I want to say you guys are like you're almost at 80 episodes. I think it was just you're somewhere around, because I want to say it's like 78, 79, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Gosh, I know. I think there might be more. But I know that the ones we've done together, I know we're well into almost 40, I think, with recordings for Michael and I. And then I know we're at, if you include both channels, if you include my Not Aliens, if you include Conflict Network and then Conflict, the original one, I think we have 55,000 subscribers. But I don't know. It's 53,000 on Conflict Network official.
I'm not above begging. Would you mind throwing a couple? Just cast a couple over.
In all serious, here's the funny thing. It's so funny, guys. I go from I spend all this time. I'm not on Facebook, right? But I have an account that's for doing interviews because Michael likes using creepily. Facebook's Messenger is incredibly good at doing. The recording, the sound quality is really good if you have guests through the Messenger. So Michael's a huge fan of recording through Facebook Messenger. And I'm like, I've gone my whole life as I was a system administrator for years. And I'm like, look, I saw what was coming with MySpace and I'm like, I'm not doing it. So people would try to Google me and I'm not on Facebook. So there's a number of things that don't show up for your personal information. I am on Pinterest because I do design build. So for my design build company, that's there. So ironically, I had hundreds of thousands of people filtering through that, but they didn't see me really, other than the stupid little picture. But for Facebook, it's like not been on any of this stuff. And so I have like a Paulsley, I have 680. Here's what I'm really proud of. I have like 640 actual members of my YouTube channel. I'm on Not Aliens on YouTube. And I'm really happy with that because they're real people. They're not like spiders. They're not like bots. They're not, they're like real. I haven't paid for them. They're actually people who want to listen, which I really appreciate. And then Michael's been at this for over 7 years. So it was his personal work. They've added like a couple thousand people since I started, but I got to give Michael all the credit. He built that network to 52,000 subscribers basically before I showed up.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Oh, thanks. But if you guys want to, you guys should come on. We should just do a podcaster show where you guys talk about your stuff.
Nope. Let's just let us know. Like, so which, I know we're looking at June is like our next availability. It's crazy. But
nice.
It's
that's great. We do live shows too. Like we do live shows. So our big thing was to start doing a live show at the end of every Thursday of the last Thursday of the month. And then it was supposed to be open where people could ask us questions and stuff like that, but also have a theme to the show. But then I'm also doing the Forbidden Knowledge News Conference. I'm the keynote April 2nd coming up. And I'm also speaking with Jim Willis. We were talking when you guys jumped off screen, Chris and I, about Jim Willis has written 13 books. So if you could mix me and Wallace Wagner together, you would get Jim Willis. That book, I'm going to have him on. And hi, Wallace. And then, if you want to, Jim is pretty incredible. I had a great time getting to know him.
Yeah, the last we had him on. God, I can't remember the date. Well, you don't know. I mean, it's just I said, but we had him on before, and it was a fantastic conversation. We were waiting to bring him on as soon as his new book came out, and so I said his new book came out.
Yeah, yeah, and Wallace's work. I feel like Wallace's work overlaps.
It does.
I mean, what'd you think?
Like I said, I just got this. Just picked this up a couple days ago.
What did you think of Wallace? What did you guys think of Wallace?
Oh my God, amazing stuff. Yeah. It's one of those. When you go through it, you realize, you have in fact every time. I mean, as I was growing up, you pack this with you. You're always looking at you're always reading these passages. You don't really think twice about it, but then all of a sudden, when you get it in the scope, like with his book, you start realizing that, I wasn't actually really thinking about what they were saying so much as it was just like, God came down and, spoke. Well, when you realize the context, how it's phrased in the way it's used, you realize he isn't talking about just some voice that appears out of nowhere talking. This literally is somebody came, the Spirit showed up and spoke. Yep. And it was like I told him the whole show. It was clicking with me the entire time.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. I've talked from Scotty Allen Roberts to Wallace to Jim. The heaven was heaven. It was directional. It wasn't heaven like floating clouds and people with harps and stuff. It was just a location, up. And there are so many mistranslations and the collection of literature. And I discuss this in my book, and I discuss it in interviews with people that I grew up Irish Catholic. Did you grow up Catholic? Did you guys grow up Catholic?
I grew up non-denominational is what we really didn't have when it was, so there wasn't a lot of the pomp and circumstance type things, going through, where you had to stand up all the time. Yeah. And, we always got the really stale wafers. And sometimes somebody would forget to order them, so they were breaking up saltine crackers.
When they went
with grape juice,
right? They went to
I think saltine crackers and Welch's grape juice, as I remember one communion.
Yeah, that's Chastity's Catholic. Yeah, so I think that it's I grew up hardcore Catholic. My dad was in the choir. My mom was in Bell's contemporary group, edited the paper, cooked for the priests. I was in all I had church ski club and I had school ski club. I had church friends. I had the church groups, and then so I grew up super Irish Catholic. And you have questions, and you're told, "Well, just have more faith." And then it's like, well, what about J source, Q source? Do you understand? Like, no Christian in general, the ones that are just, there's legalism and the corporate faith, religion, and then there, of course, there's the religion is different than personal spirituality. And in the case of Christianity, when you start to say, do you know what the Elohist is? Do you know what the Yahwehist is? Do you know what J source, Q source, the two source theory? And people look at you funny. They have no idea what you're talking about. And it's like, you talk to someone who's gone to seminary and you bring all this up and they're like, well, yeah. So, oh, by the way, that's our live podcast train that's going by 20 feet from us.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, so
Take a shot.
yeah, woo. And sometimes, yeah. So right now it's like, yeah,
It's a
shot.
drinking game. Every time the train rolls by, you got to take a drink.
Yeah, we'd be done if we had to drink during the entire time because this is the main yard. But yeah,
You're in Chicago with the L train.
well, so Minneapolis and St. Paul downtowns, the reason they call it the Twin Cities is because it's 7 counties of nonstop metro. Of the 6.5 or 7 million people who live in the Twin Cities, over half live between Minneapolis and St. Paul. And it's one continuous, I'm in a building right off the train yard that is literally 9 miles long. And there are places where it opens up to like 30 tracks wide, give or take, maybe more.
Oh, major switch yard. Oh,
yeah. So this is the main yards for Minneapolis Twin Cities.
You're sitting there, you just hear this pow as they're just connecting the cars.
No, but they get squeaky. You get squeaky because if they slow down and they're like, oh God, they're hooking up another train. And then you hear the ding. And one day the ding went on, and the ding is about 400 feet away, but it ran for 7 hours. It dinged. It just dinged. And I'm like, I'm going to go break it. I'm just going to go break it. Because I was trying to record. I'm trying to get out. So I have 2 chapters of my audiobook out. That's an hour and a half of work. It's on the member area of Not Aliens. But you can't record when shit's going ding, 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 ding for 7 hours. And you're like, I already have 20 reasons I don't want to record. This is the good reason. But I need to record. God. So you never know when that thing starts to go. Is it just going to be while the train's going by? Or is it going to be, and I'm literally sitting, by the way, guys, I'm sitting between distilleries and breweries. I am sitting within one block. I'm sitting within 12 breweries and 2 distilleries.
Oh, Jesus.
And within a block and a half. And then
I was feeling bad for you with the whole train thing. And now this is one of those. Can I tell you how rough it is? My pavement is not even in my mansion, and it's just really driving me crazy.
I see that. I see that you're in your Marie Antoinette sort of hangout clubhouse right now.
Yeah, you're just like, I've got all these trains in here, so I'm forced to go to the distillery and hang out there and hang out because I just can't stand the trains.
I imagine, you go on vacation, you're like, I just can't sleep. Oh, what's wrong? I can't get a drink. I don't hear the trains. Like something's wrong. I guess.
Yeah, I can't hear anything. I mean,
it's too quiet. There's no alcohol.
Oh. There's the sound of the ocean, and by that I mean trains. And it is fun in the few times that I've been here where there are loads of military vehicles going by, and it'll be tanks, like 40 tanks in a row, and then it'll be a bunch of armored personnel carriers. And I'm like, they're going west, they're going east, they go both directions. I'm like, where are all these things going? And it's phenomenal to watch that stuff. I feel like I'm a kid with a toy train set, and I'm looking at all the World War II stuff.
Oh yeah, it's one of those. I agree. Somebody showed me that video. I'm not sure where they're headed, but all the UN vehicles. They showed that one where it was like just like hundreds. It looked like hundreds of the UN, armored, vehicles just rolling by on a train, and they're like, "Where is this all going?"
Weird. They only come by, of course, right when I'm recording, because I'm telling you, there was no trains for the last hour and a half. It's just now. But
going on, wrap it up. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. So the whole deal with J source, Q source, the 2 source theory is that growing up Catholic, it's of course St. Peter founded the church. It's literally the basis for the Roman Catholic Church, which people do not understand is a corporate religion. It was created to have a reason. Obey Caesar, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. The King James Bible, everyone even learned, and I think at least in my generation, you learned that the King James Bible is designed to justify the rule of kings. And so all Bibles are written for political reasons, and yet you have people who are, and I write about this in the book, and I'm not being I'm not trying to be demeaning. It's just that people need to know why grandma died. They want to know they have something to live for. We need a lot of people who I honest to God think would kill everyone if they didn't think there was anyone looking at them, which is a problem. So it's super, that's what Chris said. No, seriously, it's true, because you have people that are like, they don't have an internal moral compass, and it is externalized in pick the religion. You realize over half the planet does not believe in Christianity. And that's part of the problem with our view of history. And the problem, and so the problem is people confuse their spiritual being, who they are spiritually, with their religion. There is something out there. There is something that we can all work on. But the problem is that when you identify it only through your faith, something that confuses people really quickly is they don't want to hear that there's a two-source theory that says two of the Gospels really came from the other two Gospels. And then not only that, there's a whole bunch of Gnostic texts, and then getting to UFOs in the Bible and Wallace Wagner's work. It's not just that, it's the very basis for Eric von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods, the Book of Enoch. Enoch's referenced in the Old Testament multiple times. He's literally mentioned by Jesus. He literally gives a shout out. And I'm definitely talking white hipster Jesus, because that's Jesus, white hipster Jesus.
Yeah.
The guy who brewed beer and, whatever. So the point is that this, the Book of Enoch literally shows space travel, and we can't get into it tonight, I don't think. But yeah, I mean, Enoch did not die on Earth. For those that don't know, he was picked up. He was picked up by the gods. It wasn't God, it was gods. And Nephilim did not mean giants, and it didn't mean, anyway. For now, Enoch, at the end of his life on Earth, is literally picked up by a ship and taken off and leaves the Earth. He doesn't die on the planet. There is no other interpretation for that. And that Book of Enoch is still in the Ethiopian Christian text, but that part was removed. And then all the references to Enoch are left in. And here's another uncomfortable one. And this is the distinction between legalism and faith, where you have a spiritual being in you. You are, but then you have the religion. And here's a problem: Gilgamesh, the epics of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is from Sumer. All of the Gilgamesh that we know of is from the Sumerian texts, and more specifically from the Syrian king's library. There's actually two forms of cuneiform A and B. B has never been translated. A has only been translated a little bit, and there are millions of documents that if you want to contribute and want to learn cuneiform and you want to contribute, you can actually do that. There's a corpus database now. You can look up every reference of Nibiru. You can look up every reference of Anunnaki, and guess what? Everything Zechariah Sitchin did and said was a complete lie. He ran with it because nobody could check his work. So the problem now is you have Gilgamesh from Sumeria, and their Noah and their flood stories literally end up in the Bible. Now, who wrote the original Bible? Well, the people who wrote the Old Testament. And I don't want to repeat anything that Wallace was doing, but the reality is that I go into it in my book. But the point is the blinders people put on through their post Younger Dryas / last 6,000 years of history and faith is that the Bible says we're 6,700 years old, and like you said, Wallace brilliantly gets into salt and coal, and there's no way that the Earth is 6,700 years old. And we do know enough between OSL, carbon 14, carbon 13, refinements on all the different dating methodologies. No matter what, we have a problem with even the way our DNA looks. And in the layers of Earth in situ where we find anatomically correct humans, it just doesn't line up to 6,700 years. And that would be one thing. Like, we could have a whole conversation tonight about how is it all wrong. But my point in getting to it is that anatomically correct humans, like we talked about before, were found in layers of the earth millions of years ago. The Red Crag in Europe, the Table Mountain in California. There's a couple Table Mountains. I'm talking about the one in California that Michael Cremo references.
Mhm.
And we're talking 20 million, 60 million, 4 million, 8 million to go backwards. And then further, we have the Rockefeller footprints that have boot stitching that is shown in a shoe. And yes, there can be mud fossils and very quick sedimentary processes that freeze up sand into sandstone or limestone, or there are different chemical processes where you're like, well, that became an instant fossil and it's only 50 years old or 80 years old or 100 years old. No, in this case, even the Rockefeller Institute looked at this shoe that looked like a boot print, and it was made in a layer of the earth that looks like about 150 million years.
Yeah, I was going to when you were talking about the levels like salt and cold, there was another one. When I was going to college, we went up in Oregon. We went up to one of the passes. It was, I believe, Willamette Pass, which is down close to Eugene, Oregon, up in the Cascade Mountains. Well, there's a cutout where they cut the road through, and you can see these lava formations, the pillow lava. You can see this, and the layers that are on there. So even if you believe the flood theory, the entire Earth was covered in water, that doesn't explain the fact. Okay, so you could say, well, that's why there's these pillow lava here. Well, it doesn't. Then at that point, it doesn't explain the metamorphic rock layers that are above this pillow lava. That has to be buried, and the pressure has to be there. So this can't be from this catastrophic global flood event that they say. And you're looking at these things, and when you start looking what we know about metamorphic rock and the layers, this takes longer than 6,000 years to create all these multiple layers of metamorphic rock, because you got to have a layer upon layer of sediment. So this didn't happen in just a couple hundred years and then suddenly magically got buried in massive pressure.
No, and I mentioned in my book, and it's so funny, I'd heard about this. I had heard about a pyramid that was buried under. At first off, it had been abandoned. It was almost a mound pyramid. It had been abandoned, and it's in it's in central northern Mexico, and it had about 34 feet of dirt on it. So it had been abandoned a long time. Then a 15-mile wide, up to 15-mile wide, very long lava flow covered it. Then National Geographic did a whole thing on it in 1922. And I had heard about it, and I had gone by side note story. So I'm working on my book, and I had spent Olaf Phillips, Paranoia Magazine, Anomalies Publishing, he's my publisher, and we're working on the edits, which were significant in over 60,000 words. We added and did all this work for 6 months. Well, I go into an architectural salvage store because I do historical remodeling. And that's why I look at the engineering and megalithic buildings so differently than, I'm like, this is not the same builders. No one builds like this. But here I am, and there's a stack of National Geographics, and I'm like, out of 25 old National Geographics, what are the chances that the April issue of 1922 is in the pile? It was. So I have the original folded layout of the, see, this is back when, for all those in the conspiracy world, National Geographic didn't know what they should or shouldn't report. So here we are. There's Olaf, and he's awesome. And so here is this pyramid that's already been abandoned, under 35-ish feet of dirt, then buried under a lava flow. Then and so National Geographic, here it is in 1922, going, there's a pyramid, a massive mound pyramid. They found burials, they found objects, they found ceramics. It's at least 8, to the best of their knowledge, 8 to 15,000 years old. Wow. You should not have any pyramid in Central America at 8,000 years ago, right? And
no, absolutely not. Yeah,
there's a narrative breaker, right? And then we have Huitlaco, Mexico, which I may have mentioned last time, which Virginia Steen McIntyre in the 60s is brought in as a geologist with super rocket star geologist, knows her rocks, looks at a site with carbon and the coal and everything else, and says, these are, by the way, humans. These are not Neanderthal, Denisovans, any subspecies. This is a human site. The archaeologists bring them in, and they date it at a minimum to 275,000 years old. At a minimum, 275,000 years old. That therein lies another giant elephant in the room. But now we have Göbekli Tepe and 6 other tepes that we know of that are in Turkey. That when I started looking at my book, I had no bias. I now tell everyone screenshot everything, because when I started looking, Klaus Schmidt, I had started researching before he died. And so Göbekli Tepe, they were saying was 12 to 16,000 years old at a minimum. And at the time, they had done organic carbon dating to 36,000 years. They found organic material. But now I can't find it anywhere on the internet. And my first year of research, which at this point has been 5 years ago, and just on that, I've always had a lifelong interest in this. But like 4.5 years ago, I had found this thing about, I'll look into the report later about the 36,000-year-old carbon dating. I'll look at that later. And now there's this general narrative out there that, Göbekli Tepe is about 12,000 years old. And it's like, well, first off, that does get us past biblical history. It does talk about a megalithic building society. It's clear from the little river rocks that are stacked between the walls that, yet again, it looks like 2 different sets of builders. But to your point about the huge flood, I think, and I haven't talked to you guys about this yet, that I think there was, according to Brad Olson, a large, not him, but geology says that about 75,000 years ago, there was a massive volcanic event. But what I'd like to say is that when that city that I talk about off the coast of Cuba, when that went under around at a minimum 50,000 years ago, but I think what happened is somewhere between 60 and 55,000 years ago, that's about when that city in Cuba ends up at 2,300 feet deep. That's when at the Eye of Africa, I guess based on screen, the Eye of Africa ends up 7,800 feet above sea level with the recut structure really looking like a really good example of what Atlantis might have been. And then, okay, so everything goes topsy-turvy about 60, 55,000 years ago. And that's when this worldwide, global, ancient, advanced human society that I write about, that built all these things, had full control of the human brain, could control genetic abilities and memories, and likely had an unlimited lifespan. Wait, the whole world goes to crap. And then we have this time frame from 55,000 to the Younger Dryas, where everything's like pretty messed up. They've either retreated underground or things have happened. We don't have those, but we have rock cut ruins all over the earth. That's one of the topics of my second book. Jennifer Deo, the archaeologist, and I are actually writing. We're working on a book together right now about some of this in Sardinia and these ancient rock cut ruins. But then you have the Younger Dryas event. So this like now final third base wipeout of the human race. So something else catastrophic happens at the Younger Dryas, and we frequently look back from where we are now and say, well, there was probably this global society prior. I think it really ended, and they may have tried to recover, but in that good night. Just throwing that out. Unless that was not. Was that not?
You forgot to mute it before he yelled good night.
Nice. That's what's up.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, apparently you're done. Good night.
Yeah, that's all right. And it's like Chris pulls the red buzzer.
Oh my God.
And then it's like we should all yell out something. Vikings up next.
Just random Tourette system. Syndrome.
Some Tourette.
Tornadoes.
It's like good morning. So that's awesome. So the idea that maybe something happened more catastrophically 55, 60,000 years ago, and then things are not going well to the Younger Dryas, and then there's like either an aftershock or the follow-up, which 30 or 40,000 years after an initial might not really be that far apart. And it could have been weaponized. It could have been internal conflict, because it doesn't seem like whatever was left of this ancient, and the premise of my book is that this ancient advanced society made it in some of its extremities, and not some of them were users. Like there's plenty of us with iPhones or cell phones or Androids, and we don't know how to build them. We're aware of the technology, and just being aware of it would help us reinvent it. But it might take us hundreds or thousands of years to reach the technological level if we were forced underground into giant rock cut ruins, which I will tell you, as a side note before, well, anyway, the timestamp is we hit the Younger Dryas, and then from the Younger Dryas, whether it's, Robert Schoch says solar flares, or again, there's a lot of different theories, but it ends up with the world, and Tanis is a good example in Egypt, gets so much there seems to be vitrification, but also, which is where high heat and then cooling and then quartzes and granites and basalts flake in ways that aren't normal. But there's a lot of geologists, including Scott Walter, that would tell you that actually it is normal after a long period of time for stuff to look what appears to you as vitrification. Is it really just aging stone? But the reality is how old are some of these megalithic blocks? Do they really date from pre-Younger Dryas to just within a few thousand years or 100 years of within Younger Dryas? Or are some of these vitrifications or these agings of these large standing stones from Karnak to dolmens all across the world, and Montana to, literally all over America, all the way through Europe? Are these dolmens weathered because, super square and polished on the bottom, but then they look like natural stone and they can be 20, 30 feet tall? And are they originally like megalithic structural supports to what were once much more advanced buildings, but then they basically were weathered for that 30,000 year period, 20,000 something plus whatever it is, to Younger Dryas, and then Younger Dryas, and it's like now everything is really wiped out. And so here we are post flood, and the Sumerians, the first, and again, so two things about the Sumerians: they have two forms of cuneiform. One has never been translated. It's a whole language. A lot of things that, like Jennifer Deo and I, she brought up in our last Not Aliens conversation, was that the first cuneiform is really from a Syrian king's library. It's not even technically, it's cuneiform. It's definitely Sumerian, but that's all we got. And then all of Sitchin's work was based on a cylinder seal or cylinder seals. He didn't actually, not only did he mistranslate, he openly lied and made a bunch of stuff up. And so unfortunately now there's a lot of conversation about that, where, a bunch of stuff happened around the Sumerians. But then what do we get out of that? We get the epics of Gilgamesh. We get the Noah's flood stories told in Sumer first. And then now, boom, suddenly it's in the earliest books of what we're calling the Old Testament or the Torah. And so you have not just borrowed, but straight up, Gilgamesh is now in the Bible. Enoch is now in the Bible, but he's not. It's like he's literally mentioned in the Bible, but let's take out his book. And then anyone who's female, they can't talk to God. So let's take out all those books. And then, when you start,
Mary Magdalene's book, that's out.
And I think the Masons are right about this. And Scott Walter put me onto this based on the Hooked X. That last book he put out is really brilliant. And I do believe that Mary Magdalene was with Christ. I do think that the stories we have, again, all this, I guess, was from a circular point of, I was trying to get back to people being uncomfortable. Like, I was told I felt bad when I had these questions and doubts when I was a kid. I would ask the same questions you would of your pastors or ministers. But I'm in front of the Holy Roman Church. These people are supposed to be floating themselves. And if you have a question that makes you sound like you don't believe, and it's very institutionalized. So I felt very intimidated when I was younger about asking some of the questions I had. It sucked. And so to really, for people out there who are on this journey themselves, that's a great thing about whether you're armchairing it or straight up becoming more and more of you might call yourself a intermediate self-experimenter, but it goes from food and workouts and exercise and positive gene expression to learning these esoteric things that are between Wallace Wagner's work, Jim Willis's work. There is always so much facts that aren't included in what really is again, the argument that the faith gives you is, because I heard the argument was, you need to have more faith. Everything is Holy Spirit inspired, period. It's like, how you can't argue with that. There's
you want to make somebody uncomfortable. You start talking. I credit Dan Brown with really making people uncomfortable. Is the whole thing, he brought it up, and I completely believe Mary Magdalene and Jesus, they weren't just hanging out.
No,
they were a couple. that the wedding that he changed the water to wine, that was his wedding, because the words in the way it's worded, that is how back in that time, that's how they referred to the groom. So when Jesus was there, he was actually, I believe that was his wedding. They're married. This is the thing. They have kids. And I said, you want to make church people uncomfortable? You start talking about Jesus being married and having kids, and they lose their minds. They just
yeah. Well, you can't.
They're okay with a virgin birth, but man, you talk about Jesus married. Oh,
I had no idea who John Piper was, and I had spent a period with someone that went to John Piper's church. John Piper was in Minnesota, and he's based out of downtown Minneapolis. John Piper, of course, he's considered the greatest living Calvinist in 200 years. He's considered, and not just Calvinist, I'm talking theologian. And John Piper now, I don't know too much about him right now. I think he's in his 80s, and he, very brilliant man. And I got to hear him speak on the water into wine deal. And John Piper, by the way, John Piper's book is the book that was the basis for the Passion of the Christ that Mel Gibson did. Mm-hmm. That was Piper's work. And so here's Piper explaining that you have to understand that what Jesus did was each one of the vases that he turned into water to wine. He explained how the weddings worked. One, you had to have enough for everybody who came, and everybody came. Two, they drank everything. When they drank everything, then they have to go through the crap that nobody wants to drink. So back in the day, they would go through some really bad beverages, which he goes, they went through. You have to understand that when Jesus, and I remember him talking about this, that when Jesus turned the water into wine, again, based on, by the way, the corporate literature that you and I are discussing is a fiction written by a corporate institution that created a religion in order for you, one, obey your Caesar, obey your king. Slaves are cool. Solomon and David can have as many girls and anything and everything the internet has still not imagined. I think Solomon had like 1,500 wives, and between wives and concubines, it was like 1,500 women. But whatever, that's cool. And anyway, so here we are with the water into wine. Each one of those vases that he turned was the equivalent of 750 bottles of wine each. Yeah. Each one of those containers. So this village or city was lit beyond all recognition. How any of them could write, I remember. Yes.
South Beach, Miami ain't got nothing on that party.
No. So, and his whole sermon was, you have to understand, not only could he do it, but you have to understand how great the feat was, in the sense that he provided that much abundance, that Christ could do it, but that he did it in the sense that it was to be continued to be flowing and enjoying. But it's like, how lit was that party already? And then it's 750 bottles of vase. Everyone should have had alcohol poisoning. No one should have been standing. All life should have ceased upright. It should have been all horizontal, slithering for a week, I think.
Yeah.
But but again, it's like, you can't drink if you're a Christian. Well, how do you double speak this? People don't understand that. Pick your favorite dive bar. God knows I have a few. And when they said Jesus hung out with X, Y, and Z, it wasn't, I'm better than you people. Not that we're getting into a sermon here, but based on the analogies and the stories, these people get these weird self-righteousness things going, where it's like, okay, look, Jesus is literally drinking and hanging out with people at a bar. He's hanging out with the people. He's not showing up like it's some sort of like at home networking, triple layered sort of party where you're selling products here. He's hanging out with these people in their environments, drinking with them, hanging out with them, and talking with them. And it always gets put like, how did you go from sandals and a robe to everybody going in their best clothes before they watch their latest sporting event on a Sunday? How did that happen?
Well, I always picture that thing where the apostles are like, where are you going? I've always pictured he's walking into this brothel, like hookah lounge with the beaded curtain. He's just going in there. They're like, "Where are you going?" And he's the smoke's rolling out. The girls are all hanging out. And he's just like, you're hanging. It's like, my Lord, you can't go in there. Watch me.
No, he's literally making the Santana sham.
Yeah.
I mean, he may have walked next to the boat, but eventually he was on a boat, bitch.
Yeah.
And
on the boat,
and
lit.
let's bring it back. It's been too long. Let's bring
Oh my
it back.
God. Oh, this is awesome.
So I encourage everyone. Here's the moral of the story. We're having fun with it, and don't distinguish your spirituality from your religion and your legalism. And all I'm telling people is that if you'd like to either read my book or Wallace's or Jim Willis's work, that latest one, that Censoring God, the reality is that the true story of the Christian religion is so complex and interesting. And just read the histories, find out what the two source theory is, find out what the Elohist is, find out what the Yahwehist is, find out what why is it reduced to the word J source, the sayings of Jesus. Just look at all of it and learn as you want. Go down the rabbit hole, and you'll find that it doesn't play well. And the reason it's important for our conversation is really because people get stopped at we have to go really far away from the argument of the earth is 6,700 years old and dinosaurs were here to test us. I've literally heard a pastor say that dinosaurs are in stone to test our faith.
Huh?
I'm telling you, if we were living with T-Rexes, there wouldn't be any of us around here. I mean, we would have nom noms going all over the place. Just
bam, bam.
Chewing. There wouldn't be very many of us left if we were with dinosaurs. I'm just saying.
Oh my God, Dinotopia. I'm all about Rock'em Sock'em dinosaurs.
I mean, nobody watched Jurassic Park with the raptors? I mean, we're not surviving that.
Yeah. It's like, see, this is chaos there. Yeah. I just I would have got out of the Jeep. I got out of the Jeep. They got out of the Jeep.
Max Hawthorne would, just a megalodon. You got those creatures in the ocean. That alone, I mean, nobody's touching that water. We're all dead.
Yeah, Dan Duke. Oh, is that Dan Duke? Is that actual Daniel Duke listening? That might be Dan and Teresa Duke, the great grandkids of Jesse James, if that's actual Dan Duke.
It is.
All right.
And Teresa's been watching it. Yeah, Teresa's here too. Yep.
Hi, girl.
They're gonna be on with you here coming up soon.
Next week. We're recording on Tuesday. And by the way, Dan and Teresa's both their work and their research, not just on Jesse James, but on Jesse James doing the relationship between the Masons and the Templars, and Dan Duke's work on actually figuring something out about the Masonic / Templar maps for buried treasures. And although the map lays on America quite well, we discussed this in one of our, in fact, I just released one of the interviews that we had that was a little difficult to record, but it actually discusses actual Templar treasure locations in America. Wow. Found and unfound. Huh? And there's a map. Yeah, literally, there's a map.
Oh, you're gonna have fun with Dan and Teresa. Yeah.
That's yep. Great. Yeah. So I didn't know if it was really him, but yeah. So getting back to it, it's as far as the Bible goes, it's just something fun to look at for everyone who's ever had if you think you're going to get that answered by dealing with your spirit, your in corporate faith provider don't go that route. Just, this is a great place where you can quickly there we go. Yeah, Jesse James, Lost Templar, and and by the way, I like April chiming in over here. This is nice. It's definitely true. I love that she's following along. So the deal with the Bible, or whether you want to believe in the reason I brought up Zecharia Sitchin is because so many people will, if you give them a hot minute, they will start telling you all about the Anunnaki and everything they did, and everything they're referencing isn't the actual what we know of the Sumerian origin stories and the Anunnaki, which are within context of the stories that you can look up. I list the database. You guys can all go to the corpus, the database, and you can look at what here's the exact original cuneiform. Here's the direct translation. Here's what this means. Like go jump out of a tree, but it says sow 3 trees and pour 1 to the river. And, it gives you the direct translations of everything. And at the end of the day, you can see that there's nothing about humans being lesser life forms and that the Anunnaki came along. When you start digressing into that, you're digressing into Sitchin's work that has become beyond lore. It's now an internet myth. It's been so repeated on so many sites that people get really excited about doing their own work. They get out and they start reading sites that are really well put together. And then the next thing you know, you'll have this stuff on, there's one of them right there. And then I have another one I'll send you. And it's really fun is that some of these databases are set up so that you can look at untranslated documents. The U of M here at the University of Minnesota has a underground storage facility. You can go actually, most universities in a lot of towns have cuneiform tablets. You can actually go handle them. You can go look at them, but you can actually start help translating them. So you could literally find the next epic of Gilgamesh. You could actually find, unfortunately, a lot of what they're finding is like Phil sold John like 52 sheep, or the governor this got told to the mayor that, and do this or do that, or, it's a lot of it's administrative documentation, but there are literally millions of tablets untranslated. They didn't like have an idea like, oh, this one is probably a good set. Let's start with this. It's been totally random the whole time. So now if you take all of our post-flood Western mythologies, and again, not interfering with people's spiritual beings or beliefs, the world of vibrational medicine, I'm spending a lot more time talking about that, not woo-woo, actual, like we are energy beings. We are, the best description I've heard so far is we are frozen light. And that's a true thing. I mean, we're not like Ken Wheeler's work. We're not the cult of bumping particles. We're either waves and frequencies and field perturbations and toroidal fields and energy, or there's the cult of bumping particles. It's just an explanation that came up with that there's supposedly a duality between particle physics and then the waves and frequencies. But as far as where we are with our history, we can't see past those stories. So when we're looking at large megalithic blocks, right down to what I talked about the last time I was on, engineered soil like Terra Preta, the problem is then you don't go, well, wait a minute, you mean like most of the earth is engineered soil? Yeah, quite a bit of it. And then, okay, well, what about the Nazca lines, the Bolivian Nazca lines, and these other lines that appear to be giant, basically in-ground earth circuits? Well, Eric von Daniken told me personally that these things have been tested there. It's not just by the way, this is not a geological default of it being a volcanic area. They were specifically treated with arsenic and they had piezoelectric properties, just like the engineered soil. So it's hard. You look at all of it and you go, well, my one faith tells me this, and all the stories about the Anunnaki and Sumeria tell me this, and the Fertile Crescent tells me this. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh, well, there's some things that happen in the East, but they're not important. And
well, I mean, that's the thing. How can you discount that? Because you even talked about it in your guys' show that you had Wallace on there. You have the Hindu, or, traditions that goes back thousands of years, before Christianity, and they're talking about these things, and people are going, yeah. People are like, no, that doesn't count. You're like, this is actual record. This isn't something that was made up just now. I go, this has already been here. And I go, this stuff predates it. And it's telling the same exact stories that are now being told in the Bible. But the Bible version is correct. But the Hindu and the other accounts are wrong. Those that you can't believe those.
Well, and again, what do you do with the Bible having the Gilgamesh epics? Enoch, the Noah's flood story, all of it is literally the Sumerian stories, but they rewrote it for their version. So how do you not look at the borrowing and say, well, okay, well, the Buddhists are wrong, the Hindus are wrong, but there's more Hindus than there are Christians. Mm-hmm. I mean, and do you do it by popular vote? I mean, and again, here we are at 10 to 15% conscious. I don't think people in the ancient, that 55 plus 60,000 year ago crowd and the crowd that's flying around and the percentage of craft that are doing 0-point turns that F-18s can't follow, the Tic Tacs and assorted other UFOs, and this disclosure that's allegedly coming with this COVID bill that they're saying, okay, you know, by June 1st, they're going to disclose X, Y, and Z beyond what the CIA said that, you know, okay, well, you know, the CIA, Michael Hall from Spaced Out Radio, we were talking about this just the other night. I mean, Michael's been in the ufologist, the paranormal lawyer. He's been at this for 40 years. And, you know, the CIA, just because of FOIA and a number of other things, the CIA dumped a bunch of docs. So the only thing that's required is
like a million pages of documents. Yeah, it was crazy.
So, right, but how much of that is going to be repeat for this next dump? You know, how much of it is just going to be the other government institutions' copy of the same documents? How much of it is going to be new stuff? It's specifically, I have a friend who's looked at the actual wording of the bill, he read bills for a living for the legislatures here in Minnesota. He reviewed what, by the letter of the law, what they're actually going to release, and the only thing they have to release technically within the verbatim rules of what was written is simply counts of flights. So they have to disclose simply that on this date somebody said, oh crap, look at that. And they so it's really limited. It's not, hey, yep, we tried to fool you, there's a big city in Antarctica that we weren't going to tell you about, but yeah, it's super advanced. And, you know, like a whole bunch of super advanced ancient humans have been living there for tens of thousands. So here's a funny dialogue that's going on right now. They're like, this is what you hear on the news and what you hear on all the shows. Aliens have been living here with us all along. Okay. So we have, when you get rid of all these modern religions and when you start, first, it's like, can we give the Hindus and everyone in the East a lot more credit because they've been there? They have the same megalithic ruins that are in Egypt and in Peru and in North and South America, ancient ruins that are tens and tens of thousands of years old. And then it's, what are we going to do? Okay, so we have the same megalithic ruins from Japan. And again, we're talking about what's above water. Remember, most of our history is still, I think, off the coast, buried. Marine archaeology is ultimately where it's going to be, not just that city off the coast of Cuba, but which no one's really looked at now for 15 years. We know it's there. Yeah, it's super deep, but no one's looked anyway. So here we are with a megalithic worldwide culture. We have engineered ancient soil like terra preta and chernozems all over the earth that have piezoelectric properties. It self-replicates. A professor in Kansas has been looking at this. There's lots of people looking at terra preta going, it's the super richest growing soil on earth and it has piezoelectric properties and it self-replicates. Oh, it's a mystery. And then, so here we have all these worldwide, really advanced ruins. We show, by the way, the reason I say 55,000 years ago for this disaster, coincidental mainstream knowledge, approximately 50,000 years ago, Neanderthal, Denisovan, and a mystery 14% unknown human all started breeding together about 50,000 years ago. That's our current genetic knowledge base. So let's think of all the world was one thing, and then whoever the surviving tribes or cultures were. And mind you, when I say Neanderthal, they were bigger than us. Their bones were denser. They were stronger than us. They had, and here's the other thing, crazy part, they had larger brains than us, which usually indicates intelligence, but we always draw them looking like half monkey / loinclothed idiots with clubs. Yet, yeah, they're stronger, they're bigger, they're taller, and they have a bigger brain. But draw them in a loincloth. Just like every time, like Göbekli Tepe, large megalithic pillar, and they knew how to do that. And then we're discounting that it was an abandoned site, like at Rapa Nui, like in Easter Island, where the oldest moai are. There's 150 made of basalt. They're finely polished. They're gorgeous. Then there's approximately 850 more moai that they look kind of like the old ones, but they're not. They're easier to make. They're made out of a volcanic rock. They were easy to pound out. So again, Göbekli Tepe, which is only 5% dug up, so says, okay, well, there's megalithic pillars in the middle. The site gets abandoned by the advanced culture. And now another culture or multiple cultures come along and they they find the original quarry and they try to mimic the production work. And then at the same time, they add on and maintain. And then you have these little river rocks. Who cuts a 20 to 30 foot pillar and then goes, screw it, we'll stack little rocks between it because we're bored now. And then, of course, we'll finish off this entire thing like a lean-to with whole logs because we don't know how to cut logs. So we're not going to make boards. We're not going to make walls. We're not going to make shingles. I don't really like shakes. Chuck's too busy killing a saber-tooth. So let's just lean some cloth on them and call it a day. And that's how we get these drawings in our head where we don't see our true past. So right now in the narrative is aliens have been living here all along. What I'm saying is, it's not aliens. Worse, it's us, that it's an advanced human race that survived and has survived multiple catastrophes for an indefinite tens of thousands or millions of years based on the human record showing that we've been here anatomically way beyond what we thought of the theory of evolution. So what we have is all these news stories over and over the next few weeks going, aliens have always lived here. And the reality is that it's us. It's likely that how can you look at all these advanced technologies from soil to the stories that are in the Bible, like we used to talk to animals. Okay, that would make sense if we didn't used to eat them, because according to the original Old Testament, we did not eat animals. They were our friends. And then the flood happened and then it was a free-for-all in a Ted Nugent sense.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it was like,
everything became tasty.
Yes, everything was yummy. And then it's like, sorry, buddy, look over there. And it's like, my Pikachu is now gone. I ate it. And, and so your anime friend is out and, Barbie is in. Hey, but now this is the problem, is that because of our mythologies and our belief systems now, and even our own hubris on as advanced as we think we are, yet everything we keep finding in the past is so much more advanced than what we're dealing with right now. It's so much more incredible. I like to talk to animals too, April, but I
have full conversations with my dogs. I look like a complete, insane person. Yeah. I'm having a philosophical conversation with my dog. He's just looking at me like,
yeah, see, but he might actually understand that conversation versus who's a good puppy? You're a good puppy. Yeah, that's the only advanced way to talk to an animal.
Oh, he does that too. Trust me.
Then again, let me talk to you about the Dryas period. He's just like,
yeah. And he's like, that's fascinating. Now that you're talking,
how do you know this?
I feel like I can respond.
Oh man, I was going to ask you. It's like, because you were talking about with the four, things. Wonder if there was something catastrophic. These are survivors. So, like I said, maybe that is what led to this intermingling of all these things to this. Because once you group together, it's like if there's a disaster, there's no biases. There's nothing. You're basically, it's like, dude, come with me. We got to survive this.
Yeah, because so here you have a smart Neanderthal, a Denisovan that we don't really understand at all. Really, we're starting to get the bones, and then again, unacknowledged mainstream 14%. And mind you, to the best of what we've tested, for all those, everyone, we are 6 degrees of separation from this, and it's time to start shaming every major academic institution out there. There's these little people called the Paracas with the elongated skulls, which are literally on every continent on the planet. And even if Brian Forster, who is the only person that we know of in the last couple of years that has done any kind of testing, and no matter what the testing was, Brian Forster, who I respect his work tremendously. I own a few of his books. I've met him. I'm not friends with him, but I love his work. The reality is, none of you multi-billion-dollar, massive, self-serving institutions, all of you who are looking at paleobiology and paleoanthropology, none of you have a single paper on testing the genetics of the Paracas. Do anyone out there 6 degrees of separations from someone who's interested in the past? There are literally bones rotting on the plains in Peru of elongated skulled people. They have red hair. They have red beards. There are histories even to Rapa Nui and Easter Island where you have cultures from all over the
Calm it
planet.
down there, Viking. He's over there. Yeah, my people.
Vikings literally just infesting everywhere like fairy cookies, literally like sparkles. Viking sparkles everywhere.
Well, they have to discount this stuff. They have to bury these things because what it does is it completely invalidates their life's work.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like I'm an advocate of every single archaeologist needs to have the right to be wrong. We need to pay them to be wrong. No, this is important that you need to send out an archaeologist. And if they don't find what's going to suit your Darwin theory, first off, who holds on to a theory for 150 years? You didn't want women to vote. Everything. I mean, so many things wrong with Victorian culture for the things that were right. But if we held on to one mathematical theory for as long, we would all be, my cell phone would have a screen that dialed, only it would be called a phone. That's what technology would look like if we held on to science for 130 years in a theory, by the way. It's a theory of evolution. And as they've been digging, there are slivers of mainstream information finally going out. There are very specific reasons they said we were out of Africa. And it's not true. There are slivers like Science Daily have some articles, and you can start looking that they're starting to look at the longevity of the human race prior to Younger Dryas, post, or even earlier than that time that the Denisovans event and Neanderthal and mystery human 14% species. Literally, they're saying it's a species that we don't have eyes on, was all breeding with who and what we are now. And those are what was left on the surface. Those are the tribes and the people that survived this group, this last whatever happened. And now we have an incomplete fossil record for us, but we keep seeing UFOs and we keep saying they're from somewhere else. But now we're starting to hear more and more they're from they're from another dimension. They're from another part. We're a great anthropological study. Like, there's lots of crap in the galaxy, but gotta go to Earth. You won't believe how much they have sex, drink, and die. It's great. Check it out. I'm just not to reduce our ability to be interesting, but the reality is that you look at the technology in the ground and you start tabling all the facts, and what you see is a very advanced human race was here based on the Hindu Vedas alone, post Younger Dryas, only 6,000 years old, with echoes of truths. What do we got in those? Gods that fought each other in space, in the skies. We have, like, Wallace points out, I had never heard anyone really talk about it, but I knew there was ancient UFO sightings, but he talks about a whole battle with the Romans that were going to take place in like 75 AD. And
that's, what is that? Is that page? It's like page
that's early.
3.
Yeah.
In the book. Yeah. And it's just, and you were talking about it on your show. And that is oh my God. Yeah, go ahead and tell it a little bit right here. That is an amazing story.
It's crazy. Thousands of Romans and this king, they're going to have a battle, and a meteoric landing between them. What it really is a silver Mercury looking bullet, rocket, satellite. It definitely isn't a chunk of just space. It looks like a very high-tech piece of technology based on the descriptions in the way but it lands between the armies as they're about to go to town, and they're like, well, maybe the gods don't want us to fight. That's how they took it. And they skedaddle thousands of witnesses. And they're like, not today. And then there was whole aerial combats. I mean, we have the one from Germany, the one that happened over in Nuremberg in the Baltic, which is now Germany. Yep. And that is in a lithograph, and they didn't understand what they were looking at.
That was the wood carving, wasn't it? Was that the wood carving?
Yeah. Yep. And then they memorialized it in their local paper. There was over 1,000 witnesses to that in Nuremberg at that time. And then there was those nano parts that I write about from Russia that were found that, again, gold itself cannot be dated, but the layers of earth, we're talking at least 22,000, over 300,000 years old, these gold nano parts that were little screws, very high tech, like that aluminum. They said there was that 700. Okay. It dates to at least 7. Yeah. That piece of aluminum with the hole in it. It's it was found in Europe, but it was found in situ, first off, under a mastodon that had been dead for 38,000 years. And they tried to say, oh, it's from a Messerschmitt, and it's a part. Well, they never found a part on a Messerschmitt that looked like this part, let alone it being 100% aluminum, let alone it being at least 700 years older than when we invented aluminum. And for all you people in Europe, aluminium.
Yep.
I just can't.
Aluminium, ferrous. You know, when they say, yeah, no, it's
aluminum.
And, I mean, it's like a little tangent too. It's, you know, kind of like that same thing. I mean, we get. I don't let me forget before we end this here. Yeah, that Newton story that you guys talked about. I'm going to tell everybody a little thing. My mind is blown right now.
Oh yeah,
we technically are in the year 1300 right now.
Yeah, give or take.
That the Dark Ages are literally made up time. That those years didn't exist. And I'm like, I'm sitting there, I'm looking into it, and I'm like, everybody's got to look into it, like his thing. And I'm like, because he basically like was like 600 to 700 years are unaccounted for, and they just kind of added it to the calendar.
Yeah. And you're like, wait, and you're like, what? And then I remember downloading it, and the problem with all the rabbit holes, and this is why I started working on my second book, my intent was to never stop. You reach a point where you've written so much, and you're like, oh God, how do I organize this? It's like, how do I talk about, here's the other thing, ancient advanced mining. And I haven't talked about that with anyone at all online. Ironically, we never get there. But, and again, so the first thought would be people think of the Grand Canyon. Very missed in our current dialogue. First off, the Clovis first, that whole, like, we made up a group of people that came down a land bridge. I'm not saying that some people weren't hungry enough to not go across the Bering Straits and come to America, but people have been in South America, Central America, North America for millions or tens of thousands of years. We know this from Waiatlaco that we were just talking about. That has been proven, by the way. It's been revisited since Virginia Steen McIntyre got, by the way, her entire career got hung out to dry. And I think more positive things have happened. There should be a statue to this woman and her team and everyone else. But this is a site that they've even looked at now, that I've seen the numbers between 335,000 and 500,000 years old now is what they're saying that this site is. And even to this day, we have tribes that live alongside advanced people. So there's always going to be a history, millions of years of history of finding Aeolus, Neoliths, very primitive tools that represent a group of people that were left alone. It seems as though that as long as there's been advanced people, there's also been people that were not advanced, and they were left alone to a point. And was it your show that we talked about that? It's like, what a tribe like that went out in the Pacific. Like, what do they think? Yeah, on the Singalese. Yeah, what do they think when a jet goes flying over them? Oh yeah, that too. And then Von Daniken's the one who brought that one up, where they made a little mini airstrip and they made gods out of it, and they've been talking about it since World War II. And you have anthropological situations like that, but those are all contemporary examples of what has always been going on. And when you have megalithic ruins from North America to South America, Central America, but you also have rock cut ruins. And I couldn't get to the rock cut ruins because they're also in America. And some of it is stuff that I can't entirely report on, but I can tell you that there are finds here and quite documented. These are not hearsay. These are not secondhand. There are rock cut ruins, even in America, in the mountains, that have been here and have been occupied for over 10,000 years. And that's the minimum number, that were not rock cut to the tune of like a cave. I'm talking about rock cut warehouses that were used as food storage, that were used for disaster relief, that start at 10,000 years. And they get bigger and they get smaller. And I'm writing and I'm like, what do I do with that? And what do I do with ancient mining? Right now, when we had the gold rush, when Nevada City in California, Nevada City, not Vegas, folks, but the gold rush started in Nevada City in Cali. And what happened was they used water monitors, which were very powerful, basically fire hoses, basically. And they would just rock. Anybody watching Gold Rush, maybe that would be a good example. I haven't seen it in a long time. Vikings would just probably take axes. I don't, just to throw some Viking talk in there every 10 minutes. But yeah, we have these ancient mines that even now, contemporarily, they don't look like they were man-made. They look like they're just oh, that looks like a natural hill and I'm going to go hiking. And the reality is that it's a 60 or 80 or even 40-year-old mine. And then you get to these mines that are 120 years old, or these mounds of earth. We have these large open pit mines, like some of the largest, like the copper open pit mine in Montana. And then also in South America, I'm trying to think of some of the largest open pit mines. You have to consider that a society that can use their pineal gland, use piezoelectric, super carbon filtering, highly nutritious engineered soil, and can build and work with cymatic polygonal blocks that are up to 3,000 tons. How hard is it for them to work with one trees, and how hard is it for them to dig out something? I'm not saying they dug out the whole Grand Canyon, but as an example, how much of that is natural shearing and erosion, and how much of the Grand Canyon could have been part of a mining operation? And
exactly. I mean, because are you a believer in the theories that there are massive underground tunneling? I would compare it almost to like Lord of the Rings with the dwarves. How they mined. Just you have these massive, just expansive caverns that have just been ancient mines that are down there yet to be discovered.
Buzz Aldrin, and remember, you got that video back from the 70s of Buzz Aldrin and Eric Von Daniken going to Bolivia. I think they were going to go in some of those rock cut. The other thing, and through the Andes. So don't just think tunnels that are underground, but the hardest stones on Earth, with people who can barely work with copper, are cutting through the hardest stones on Earth, creating very perfect tunnels. I think Brian Forrester photographed some of them. But no matter what, you have rock cut, basically freeways, that there's no way dynastic people did those. But then underground, that's exactly what I'm referring to when I say underground rock cut emergency food stores with that indicate that they're basically 6-10-story warehouses that are underground, meant to store thousands of food items or thousands of products or things that are rock cut underground. You have all the cities that are underground in Turkey that do connect through Europe. And then I got to interview Mohammed Ibrahim, and this is part of that rock cut. Oh, Sardinia. Jennifer Deo, the archaeologist, and I are doing a whole series on Sardinia, because just like Malta, Sardinia has polygonal constructions, engineered soil, and it has rock cut ruins that literally they say, oh, it's Etruscan. It's like, no, these are rock cut ruins. And so that means that, okay, there's a whole chapter of human history. We're not saying somebody said, quick, carve out this little house because we can't live above ground. These are very ancient, advanced, like Petra. Those are the remnants, elf castles. Google or internet search elf castles at some point. You're going to go down a whole other road where there's a number of ruins on Earth that do not date to this period, and they include tunneling systems like Mohammed Ibrahim was discussing under Egypt, hundreds and thousands of miles of massive. It's not just those giant containers that are in the Serapeum that are amazing, but we're talking a network. When they say most of Egypt's still underground, like 90%, we're talking massive amounts of large rock cut freeways. And that's a better way to describe it. Freeways, movement spaces. Of course.
I want to know what's under the sand, the desert. I mean, I was like, if there was something one of those things I could just go like that and see, I would love to see that sand stripped away and see what's underneath that.
Oh, like the labyrinth area that they've pretty much identified as being flooded right now. But multiple Greek historians have said this rivals by anything we could ever imagine of anything that we've seen in Greece. And that says something, because I have on my screensaver is a picture of the Temple of Delphi, and it's all polygonal construction in the background. The Greeks have the same stories. It's who built this? The gods built this. Aztecs, who built all this stuff when the conquistadors came? Well, the gods built this. And so that's it. They've now mystified and deified a period of time that they don't know, because there's no written, or more importantly, there's no oral record for it. And it's because all these ruins predate they predate that any written record. And then you have the Gregorian monks, and you have in contemporary times, like you said, that Newton's book on time is worth, I think, investigating and really looking at, like, why did we fast forward 400? Why did we cut out 600-700 years of history? Like, why did we round up? Why did we do that? It's odd.
Yeah,
it's very odd.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you have convinced me. We're going to have to do a part 3.
Yes.
4, 5, 6, 7.
Chris,
I'm looking at the time. I'm like, it was, I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my god, it's already been an hour and 15 minutes. I mean, this
scratch the
crazy.
surface. And then, no, Chris, do you want to shout out to anyone in the room?
Yeah, you got yourself muted. You got yourself muted.
No, they're asleep. They're asleep now, so no.
Okay, that's all right. All right.
Oh my god.
No. Yeah, but yeah. Where do you want to go in? Like, what do we got? 10 minutes?
We've got like about 3.
Oh crap! Well, like I said, I'm going to be doing the Forbidden Knowledge News Conference. I'm the keynote on the 2nd at like 7 Eastern, and then Jim Willis and I are doing the conference on the 3rd. But I will be live for those of you who would like to come meet me. I'm doing a live 3-hour lecture at America's Stonehenge in New Hampshire on May 1st, Saturday morning.
But Dennis Stone, you're gonna be hanging out with him.
That would be really nice. But
yeah, so I will also on my website on notaliens.com. You can buy tickets, and I will be giving out a Zoom link, or we'll be doing a virtual. So if you can't come and you want to just support because Dennis Stone and I, besides having him on and having become a good friend, we are doing, Jennifer Day and I, we are going to be doing some archaeological work there also, not on this trip, but it's been a archaeological site for 70 plus years. It's been managed by Dennis's family, NERA, the New England Antiquities Research Association, or something to that effect. They were started by his grandfather. And the whole area has over 800 sites, and this one's 110 acres. But I'm going to do a lecture, and then people can stay, do a meet and greet, buy a book or not. And then after that, we're going to go do the site on May 1st.
So what's the
That's
cost
a big
of
thing
lecture?
coming up.
Wow.
So what's the cost of that lecture in case our guests want to tune into your lecture?
All
It is $29.95.
right.
$29.95.
Is that going to be linked
just
through
notaliens.com?
Is that going to be there?
Yeah. It's already there. It's on the main side. You can certainly click on the link, and then I'll be see if the lecture optimistically sells out more virtually, then I have to change my license agreement to go. If it goes over a certain number, I have to add seats. So just sign up on notaliens.com. It says right there. Oh, Jared will be giving a live lecture.
And just to show, your host here, Craig, is should just do this little thing called read. It's on the front page of his website, and it just says literally right here, "I'll be giving a live lecture. Click here."
and Craig is my love broker.
That's right. Oh my God, I'm just like when I'm asking that, when we're asking that question, it's literally right there.
Well, I just added it. Actually, it just went live last night, so the tickets are ready to buy. And then, nice. But I wanted people to virtually, because I'm also going to record the site visit that day. So for those that do buy online, and if we can't shoot live from the site, I will be posting that for anyone who buys a ticket. There will be a special location for everybody to view the site walk to. Anyone who just can't come and does the virtual lecture, I'll have a link ultimately to some exclusive footage that they can look at later when we post it after I get back from that trip. But we got to do part 3, right?
Yeah,
so
we're gonna have to get that data and the thing, and also talk about, like I said, I'd be honored to come on Conflict Radio with you guys.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. You guys should totally, yeah.
So we'll just we'll figure that out and see what your guys' schedule's like, and see we'll see if we'll get that in the works, and we'll let everybody know about that. But everybody, notaliens.com.
Yeah. If you want to geek, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So in my book, I talk about the 4th state of water, Dr. Gerald Pollack's work. In a couple weeks, I'm interviewing Dr. Gerald Pollack. And I'm super excited about that. Literally discovered another state of water, folks. You think there's wet, moist, cold, hot, frozen, steamy. He actually discovered a new state of water called easy water within the human body. This is a real thing. This is a physics thing. And this man, I've been a huge fan of his. I'll be talking to him in a couple of weeks too. So that's super interesting because water is a very mysterious thing. We could talk a whole 2 more episodes on just water.
Oh, I know. Just the fact that, if you touch it right now, you can move your finger through it, but if you fall on it, it's hard as concrete.
Or you could turn water into whiskey.
With wine.
Into 750 bottles of wine in the jug. Yeah.
Yes. There we go. That bottle looks cooler. That's it.
Yeah, he gave me the other one. I'm going to figure something. I just like the Lorraine's cross on it. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah. My cider is this is a really good dry cider here locally. It's I have to stumble a whole 800 feet if I want to walk to the brewery.
You got many to choose from. So which brewery do you like the best?
Oh man, so Tattersall's does a bunch of. They're a distillery just up the block. Now I feel like I shouldn't walk, but 8 blocks up is a whiskey distillery. But right past the train track where I'm sitting is Indeed Brewery and Able Brewery and Dangerous Man, and across the street is 612 and Bauhaus Brewery. That's across the street on my other side. And then, but freewheelers, Sociable is I drink cider and I drink whiskey, and Sociable cider is a very dry, very delicious cider, and that's a personal favorite.
I think I got to come to your city and just do some tours. I'm sure the have to.
Yeah. You guys should totally come. We can call it the Stumbling Beards Tour.
Oh, it would be. Yeah, it would definitely be a pub crawl.
I'm not kidding. There are within a couple miles, I believe there's 88 breweries now and distilleries.
That sounds
right
fun.
In Oregon, because Oregon's
brother. Chris, how many of you guys like whiskey? Oh, yeah. Okay, good. Brother Justice is in Northeast here too, and they're basing their whiskey program on back in the day of Prohibition, MN13. There's a whole thing about MN13. If you went to a speakeasy anywhere, there's even receipts in Paris. During Prohibition, the best whiskey in our country came from Minnesota, and it has to do with the strain of corn. It's called Minnesota 13, MN13. And if you saw a bottle of whiskey at a bar anywhere during Prohibition that said MN13, you knew you were going to drink the best whiskey. In Stearns County, 4 out of 5 people lived there, worked in whiskey production, and Brother Justice, a monk, taught them how to do it. There's a whole story behind it, but they started a brewery again, these investors, and it's called Brother Justice Whiskey. It's with 2 U's, but you guys should definitely give that a chance. You should try that.
I'll make sure we, because like I said, if you've sold me, I gotta try.
Oh, I'm just all about the 3-beard guys getting wasted in Minneapolis, walking around, just doing samples.
That's gonna be his whole goal. It would work out great because my sister lives in Monticello.
Oh yeah. You won't be driving home, but that's far. That's close enough.
I said we'll be driving home, but I said it would be very easy to go visit sister, and then suddenly just like, I gotta head to the Twin Cities. Why? Because there's a place I need to go see.
I will be back tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm gonna be sleeping on this couch next to the train tracks.
Viking will look like a Viking. I mean, we could start in Minneapolis and end up at the Viking Museum in Alexandria with the ruined stone. And
yes,
we could be doing that. How many states would you guys be coming from? Actually,
How many?
Are you guys all in the same state? Am I outing you guys? Is that?
Yeah, we're all in Central Florida. Yeah, we live. I think all of us are within 20-25 minutes of Winter Garden.
This would be hilarious if you guys. You know where Lakeland is?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I have a really good friend who has a baseball camp there.
Yep, it's about 35 miles away from my house.
You ever come this way? You ever come this way?
I do. He's really one of my closest friends. I've known him for almost over half my life. But named Benny Castillo, used to play pro ball, but he has a baseball camp. He was with the Florida Marlins. He was a coach when they won the World Series. One of the coaches. But he played pro ball.
Make sure you inbox us if you come this way.
Oh, absolutely. There's some really incredible pizza places around you guys.
Yes, there's.
Yeah. I that's important to me. So I'm just besides
we
whiskey.
do have some. Yep. All right. Well, hey everybody. They said notaliens.com. Go check that out. Like I said, it's going to be a really great thing with what you're doing with Dennis Stone up there with America's Stone Age. That's going to be great. Just check that out, guys. Either Amazon.com, go there, or go to his site to pick up the book. It's it's not aliens, worse, it's us, by author Jared Murphy. So thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have a great night, and we will definitely, like I said, we'll work on this. We're got to bring you in for part 3. So
yeah, I'll wait for the outros.
All right, sounds good. Everybody, like I said, tune in. Like I said, for that one, that's gonna be great. We're gonna see you guys next week. So Nanny Cakes 407 on Facebook, 407-923-2898. The Central Florida area. Mention 3 beers, and you're gonna save 15% off your cake order. Outside of that area, you're just going to get wonderful tasting whatever's there, and we'll even include a signature spork, with our 3B, 3B thing. We'll do that for you. So go to 3beardspodcast.com, YouTube, Instagram, tweet at us, patreon.com/3beardspodcast. Download the Zeno Radio app. Search up Patriot Radio. At J&J Beard Company out of New Jersey is been gracious to us and has put us on their internet radio station, Patriot Radio. So go to jjbeardco.com. Thank them for doing that. That was really nice of them to offer that to us, and we appreciate that. Everybody, like I said, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. We got another couple of great shows coming up from there too. So everybody take care. Jared Murphy, thanks again. Go to notaliens.com, pick up his book. Everybody, have a great evening. Good night.